For the 100th time, you're trying to send emails through your website or through a system and they bounce. You get, it's not been delivered, it bounces. You get pissed off. You're not sure what's going on. And you know what? Most of the time when you're going around asking agencies or people to help you, they don't really know a lot about DNS or domain name systems. And so I'm going to show you in this video how to read a DNS account, what that even means, how to add in records that will ultimately help your business, whether it's with helping with email deliverability, pointing to your website, verifying your website, you name it, I'm going to be showing it here in this video. I really hope it helps out. And again, if you have questions about your DNS, let us know. Email us at analytics@aiodigital.ca and we'll get back to you with a solution. Because again, we want to help business owners with some of these very simple things that could ultimately help make a big impact, especially if your customers are unable to contact you via forms. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to go through something that I feel a lot of companies out there really struggle with. And even just the other day, I'm talking with a client and they went to 3 or 4 different people to ask about some changes to their domain so that they can get better email deliverability, and had no idea that it was us that was able to help them. So I thought this is a good example of how to go through DNS settings. What is that? How do domains work? And just give you a bit of a rundown of exactly what we're looking to do with making sure websites run consistently, your emails are delivered nicely, etc. So in this video, I'm going to really just talk about DNS records and what they do and kind of some examples of it. But in a future video, we will be breaking down SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, and how to make sure that emails are delivered to your WordPress site and out of your WordPress site to your clients very effectively, okay? So I encourage you to watch this video first, and then after that, watch the second video on SMTP, and I think you're really gonna be able to ensure that your emails are being delivered from your website efficiently. Okay, so we're gonna get started. I'm just gonna move some stuff over and we will get moving here. So let's just break down a little bit of information here. First of all, let's talk about what a domain is. So a domain is essentially the address that people will go to see your website. It's also used for emails, it's used for communication, and it just shows that level of professionalism that most businesses look for. Because let's be honest, when we're out there and we're trying to make a deal and it's at gmail.com, it just doesn't hit the same as at yourcompanyname.com. And so domains are really useful because they identify your website, but then there's 2 other things you also have to consider: your host and your DNS. So with the hosting, you want to make sure you have a strong host, and we'll maybe get into that in a future video, but then having the right DNS settings set up, the right domain, are going to be essential for moving forward and making sure that your website runs properly. And again, this is more for WordPress. There are other things out there. There's Shopify, there's page builders like Wix, right? And those are all good solutions too, but if you need something a little more custom, of course, WordPress is where it's at. So here we go. First off, doesn't matter if you use GoDaddy or SiteGround or Rebel, whatever you use, it's all fairly similar in regards to purchasing a domain. So when you're first starting off your company, you're probably going to buy a domain. And so to do that, you would go into all products and you would manage your products, explore and shop a domain, you would buy it. And that's kind of your first step, okay? I'm not here to show you how to buy a domain. It's pretty straightforward, but I'm gonna maybe move into sites and the actual domains themselves a little bit more here, okay? So I'm opening this up here. I'm not going to be showing you guys all of the different domains that we have, but we're going to just be working on one domain today, and so that we don't have any issues or concerns. So we're going to go into this one here. It's called soraltagroup.com, and so as you can see here, we have the when it renews, you see DNS, manage, renew now. when you're setting up your website, you're going to have to input certain records into your domain and so that it functions your website properly. And so I'm going to go into DNS settings here. And DNS is just another short word for domain name system. It's kind of like everything that you need to identify your website, where you're from, who's hosting, etc. So there are a bunch of different records that you are going to look at. And the first one we're going to look at is an A record. Okay? When you first get your website, or when you first get your domain, I apologize, you'll most likely get an A record that's parked. And what it means by parked is it's not sending anywhere. It's currently a fresh number, okay? Now, the information that we put into an A record is what we call an IP address. And an IP address is kind of like a phone number in a sense. It's essentially a way for you to be identified. And so IP addresses are generally used right throughout your internet, and it kind of helps with location data. And so essentially an A record is where are you pointing the domain. And so when you have the proper A record matched with your host, that connection that comes together is how your website will show up when someone types in saraltagroup.com or your website.com. That connection to show the website is the A record, okay? Generally, you don't have to change an A record once you already have it put in. There's not a much change that generally happens because A records are pretty solid, so we just leave it locked up in here. So again, if I have a website, it's going to have a record of some sort, which I can even give you an example. So we use Flywheel because the support is fantastic. And so I'm just going to log in really quick and then begin to show you exactly what I mean by that record. So let me just pop over to, I don't know, let's go a staging site here. So we have a staging site here. I'm going to click into it. And then as you scroll down, you can see IP address, and it's the 151.101.194.159. This is what you're going to paste into your A record for that website to show up on your domain. Okay? That is generally what A records do. Okay? CNAME records are kind of like a nickname. They point one name to another. So if you have your website, which you were seeing more and more like https://companyname.com. But what about the www.yourcompanyname.com? Well, CNAME records can provide essentially nicknames so that your site can point to those derivatives pretty easily. CNAME records are also used for identification. If you ever use a program called SendGrid to kind of help with your email deliverability, CNAME records come into shape there as well. So you will definitely see CNAME records. So as you can see the www here, we'll do the www.saraltagroup.com. Okay. The MX record, or mail exchange record, which you won't see any in here. A mail exchange record is essentially the records that you would get from either Google or Office 365 that allow, it essentially tells the world where your email should be delivered. Okay. So emails might bounce, they might disappear, they might not send properly. It just becomes a huge hassle if your MX records aren't input properly. And more times than not, when people are moving websites, they forget to make a copy of all the records before they move it, and then they forget to add the MX record back in. I've seen that many, many times, and then all of a sudden your client can't send emails, they're panicking, you're panicking, and it just becomes this huge ordeal. So always make sure, my hint to you, screenshot everything before you start moving domains, okay? TXT records, they're kind of like extra notes. They're kind of meant for verification purposes as well. So if you set up a Google Search Console, if you set up let's see, a Facebook domain verification, things like that, those are generally going to be TXT records. A couple other important TXT records that you may see, an SPF record is an example of one. A DMARC record is another example. These are records that you can put into your domain so that the deliverability of your emails is much better and much stronger. Because if you have strong TXT records for verification, then programs like Google, Gmail, and Office 365 will have more confidence in your domain when the email is being sent, and you're less likely to get blocked. Okay. NS records, or name server records, those are the records that help identify who's hosting your domain, or who's hosting, who holds the keys to the address book, who's in charge of your DNS settings. And so NS with domaincontrol.com is pretty traditional for GoDaddy. If you're using something like Cloudflare, you will be changing your name servers, because then Cloudflare hosts everything and runs it. So that's definitely important as well. And then, like I said, the SPF record, the DMARC, and then the DKIM records all specifically help you deliver emails better, okay? So an SPF record, which essentially says which servers are allowed to send emails from your domain. The DKIM record adds a digital signature to say that the email wasn't changed along the way. And then the DMARC record ensures that it blocks fake senders pretending to be you. So again, if everything is set up properly, it feels substantially better. And this is something that people struggle with quite a bit, even though it can be relatively easy to fix. But, of course, there's something to it. It's called propagation. So when you change A records, name servers, CNAMEs, TXT records, anything like that, it can take up to 24 hours for it to propagate across the board. And so if there are times where you're really not sure if your records have taken, there are ways for you to check and ensure that you do have them. So what I usually use is MX lookup. It's a very nice tool. It works really well. It's free. And essentially you just put in your domain, and then it will look up mail exchange records. So right now, as you can see, the DMARC's not published. The DMARC policy isn't published. There's no DNS records found on it. So clearly there's a problem for mail exchange, okay? Because there's no records on mail exchange, which we already evidently saw here. I don't have any MX records. But now let's say I wanted to look up my A record, for example. Or you can use DNS check. There you go. As you can see, here are the name records. Looks like I need to upgrade my SOA, which isn't a big deal here. MX, DNS, and then you can also go A record lookup. There's our A records. And so essentially, you can go in here, look up a whole bunch of different things. So your MX records, your DMARC lookup. This is just a great tool to be able to ensure that everything's being sent properly, okay? So be patient with it. 24 hours is definitely, I know it feels like a long wait. It can be done earlier, but typically that's what we see, okay? So ensuring that you have the right records inside your DNS is going to be really, really important. And so like I said, A records, CNAME records, MX, TXT, most of the time the programs you're working with will provide you with these records, and then inputting them into here. TTL, or essentially shorter TTLs mean faster DNS updates in the future, and longer TTLs mean more resilience and higher performance. We generally just keep them at an hour. 600 seconds is fine. But I usually keep them within an hour, half an hour, and that's usually pretty good, okay? So let's say you're setting up your new website and you have your new domain. Now you'll know, okay, I need to have an A record so that my website will show up. And then most of the time you usually have to put in MX records just so that your emails will send, and then add in an SPF, a DKIM, and a DMARC record, which we'll maybe talk about in another course or another video. That will also be very, very essential, and getting this done by your developer should be fairly straightforward, okay? If you have any other questions on this video, definitely let me know. I'm always encouraged to make this video better, and we'll continue to make updates to it. So if there's anything that you're unsure about, either let me know by sending us an email to analytics@aiodigital.ca, or you can reach out to me specifically, Mitch at aiodigital.ca. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again.